What is going to happen at Deion Sanders, Colorado, with both Kaidon Salter and JuJu Lewis prepared to do battle to be the next starting quarterback for the Buffaloes? What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching the #1 college football show, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year-round. If you like what you're watching, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and answer this question in the comments below. Who do you think should be the starting quarterback at Colorado, right? Now, I think it's interesting to think about it from this perspective. This is going to be a watershed year for Deion Sanders in particular. There are lots of reasons as to why I think that is. One is he is hitting his stride at Colorado, the same way that he hit his stride at Jackson State. He had that 1 year that was kind of middling, but that was also spring 2021. Then they got into it, right? That next year they won the SWAC championship. Then they won another SWAC championship. Then he goes to Colorado. They go 4-8. And after that year, clearing everybody out and get everything going his way, they end up 9-4. He produces the Heisman Trophy winner and what is likely to be a first-round selection at quarterback in Kaidon Salter. Okay? He's turning over the staff once again. He's added Marshall Faulk and he's added Warren Sapp. So that's 3 Pro Football Hall of Famers on one staff. And Pat Shurmur seems to like being the offensive coordinator at Colorado. Robert Livingston turns your defense around. He gets an extension. And right now we're in the middle of finding out just how much more Colorado is going to pay Deion Sanders to remain their head coach. But the reason I think this is also interesting is there is no Sanders on this football team for the first time in Deion Sanders' life. Full stop. I'm not going to undersell that. I think that's a very big deal. It's a huge deal because he had coached those boys everywhere. And the reason he got into coaching was to coach his boys. That was it. And all these players that know him, like Kaden Salter, like Dylan Edwards, from like youth ball all the way up, were guys that he had coached or played against, got to know, right? These relationships become important as you get older and as you get closer and closer to where you want to be. Now that he is in a position where there is no Sanders on the team, I'm very curious to see how this team operates and who he pulls in close and who he doesn't, frankly. Because the guys that he pull in close perform. Travis Hunter, Shedeur, Jimmy Horn. We can keep going down the list on this, man. Like, he got love for a lot of dudes. Cameron Stillman Craig. Those guys perform. And it's always telling when guys are out of sync with him, like Cormani McClain. He didn't last long. Cormani McClain didn't want to work. That was it. He got him up out of there. It seems not to be going that well, right? Cormani McClain, who probably made a decision based on notoriety and popularity as opposed to his willingness to work and what he thought was going to be given, as opposed to what you're going to have to go take. That's the difference between a Travis Hunter and everybody else, right? I also think that it's interesting to take a look at this from Kaden Salter's point of view because he's leaving a Liberty program where he resurrected his career. He got dismissed from Tennessee for being stupid, all right? Full stop. And he'll admit that. And he went up to Liberty when Hugh Freeze was still there. And he proceeded to put together something like a career, man. 21-4 as a starter. 6,000 passing yards, over 2,100 rushing yards in his career there. Led them to the New Year's Six-Day Bowl game against the Oregon Ducks, and then they got housed, right? They were undefeated going into that, and then everybody knew Oregon was going to beat them like they stole something. And they did, right? But that was with also a different head coach and a different offensive system, right? The one that Jamie Chadwell runs is not the one that Hugh Freeze runs. And I believe one of the reasons that Kaden Salter wanted to leave Liberty was so that he could play on a team that had a much more quarterback-friendly and pro-style ready offense. Because right now, Kaden Salter is on the fringes, I think, of being a top-tier NFL draft pick, given what's ahead of him. Right now, I'm not sure that he would get drafted. I'm not, right? I think he might get the same sort of read as Dylan Gabriel might, but for different reasons. But at his height and at his ability, he might be the most underrated passer in college football, but he'll have an opportunity to prove that, right? And he's already getting the work in. He's got 1 year of eligibility left, and he's going to try to use that at Colorado. I think he's going to start this season for Colorado. A, he's the veteran. B, he didn't transfer to Colorado to sit. And C, JuJu Lewis is 17. And while he got to go through bowl practices, he's still getting used to whatever this is going to be. So if he can mature in a hurry, and he could be the starter. But that's going to be interesting as both of these guys are point guards with the football, right? They can make things happen when the play breaks down. and they're very good at distributing the ball out to playmakers. And you're going to have playmakers on the perimeter at Colorado. It's just a given. And then Pat Shurmur has made this offense one that was friendly to JuJu Sanders and almost exclusively friendly to him and the wide receivers because they couldn't run the football. If they could ever get to a spot where they can run the ball, it'd be interesting to see what they do. But given that JuJu was able to throw for damn near 4,000 yards, I think it was something like 39-65, something like that, in a year where they had a great year, you could be a 4,000-yard passer in this system. But I think at the expense of being able to run the football is not necessarily what you want. They did this because they had to. In many respects, 2024 Colorado felt a lot to me like 2009, 2008, 2010 Texas Tech. Like when Mike Leach had it going on and people would say it's air raid system, all they do is throw the ball all over the yard. You go, yeah, because those are where my best players are. You get the football to your best player. Michael Crabtree was his best player. That was the Blitnikoff Award winner. That dude beat Texas. It makes a lot of sense when you put it that way. It's less about what the system is and it's more about where do I have the matchup? Does Kaden Salter give you a better opportunity to exploit a matchup? And can he exploit a blitzing linebacker? Is he going to be able to read that in correctly? I think you're going to have all those things. And I think that is going to help him most. But he seems committed to the task, man. He seems like he wants this in a way that maybe some other guys have had to learn that they don't. When he was going into the portal, it was really between Syracuse and Colorado, which also says a lot. Syracuse had the most prolific passer in the country in Kyle McCord. He threw for all the yards at Syracuse, and Fran Brown was adamant. It's got to be your football team. It's got to be. It's got to be your football team because I'm going to lean on you to get us where we got to go. And what he did was put together the kind of season that was great, A. B, knocks off a ranked Miami team that just needed to win to get into the ACC championship game and then probably the playoff for the first time. And then they go win the Holiday Bowl against half of a Washington State football team. But you could tell what Kaden Salter wanted. He wanted to go somewhere where they were going to say, we're going to throw the ball and we're going to make this friendly to you. And we're going to ask you to be the guy in control out there. That's what Kaden Salter seems to want. It is also a man who is very close to the Lord, and he is going into a situation with a head coach who's very close to the Lord. Like, I even would like to Deion Sanders and Spencer Danielson probably could give sermons, two different congregations, two Americas, get the same message across. You get what I'm saying? Coming from Liberty, you know what that is. You know what they do in Lynchburg. Liberty University is that university, right? And they've made tremendous strides in football. We'll put aside the rest of it for now and talk about what Jamie Chadwell and Hugh Freeze were able to do. But resurrecting a career at Liberty, Hugh Freeze was able to do that. He was able to get back to the SEC doing that. Kaden Salter is still trying to prove to the NFL that he can play. And I think first you got to prove to Colorado that you can play. So he's getting all this work in, and at a time when spring football looks like it's about to get modernized into NFL style of OTAs that come later, say May, June, or even like a training camp, I think is what we should go to, where you start doing this stuff in July. It's going to be curious to me, or I'm going to be curious to find out which one of these guys is actually getting in the work. And if you are paying attention to the socials, you will see that Kaden Salter is out there with JuJu Sanders throwing passes to wide receivers at Colorado. It's not to say that JuJu Lewis isn't. It is to say that Kaden Salter wants y'all to know he's out here getting this work in. And you're following the most prolific quarterback of the last 2 years, in a 2-year stretch in Colorado history. Like, JuJu Sanders gets to go on a list with Darren Hagan and Cordell Stewart as 3 of the best quarterbacks to ever play at Colorado. Not too shabby. I also thought this was an interesting note. Colorado finished tied atop the Big 12 standings for the first time since 2005 when they backdoored into the 2005 national championship game because Iowa State lost a football game that punted them into a game against 05 Texas. Yeah, you could see how that one would go for Joel Klatt and them. Not so great. Not so great. They had this dude named Vince Young on the other side. Whew. And then you have Pac-12 South, Mike McIntyre, 8-1 Pac-12, by the way, in a 10-4 season. They finish atop. They get into that championship game. That's what Kaden Salter is following. You see what it's going to be here. You're hoping that the offensive line just gets a little bit better than it was last year because it took a quantum leap from what it was in 2023. they can take the leap into being good in 2025, there's every reason to believe that they can do what Arizona State did. And they damn near did. They fell a game short of playing for and winning the Big 12 championship. So I'm curious, who do you have, JuJu Lewis and his 5-star background, or Kaden Salter as your starter at Colorado?